You've had the call, but are you really ready for the inspector's visit? I've been a lead inspector for many years and have inspected and reviewed over 200 schools. I know how important it is to get the preparation right for an inspection. In this programme, I will offer my advice on how to make sure the final report tells a story you can be happy with. The inspector calls. As head teacher, you most of all want this inspection to go well. My experience as an inspector is that the head teachers who lead their inspection from the outset are those who are then happy with its outcomes. So from the moment Ofsted first call the school, take command, lead the inspection, tell your story, help shape it, and then you will be happy with its outcomes. The Section 5 inspection system, which this programme focuses on, is evolving. Some schools will be inspected less often by Ofsted. Some will be monitored more often. Whenever Ofsted arrives, they will want to investigate all the key areas: leadership and management, teaching and learning, performance in tests and exams, and the 5 Every Child Matters outcomes. So that's what the inspection process will focus upon. How best to prepare. Talking to head teachers and other key people involved in the inspection process, I'll share with you some top tips about how to ensure you have a successful inspection. My panel of leading head teachers, each from very different secondary schools, have all recently been through an inspection. They will help illustrate my top tips for securing an accurate Ofsted report. My first tip for an inspection is to prepare your self-evaluation form thoroughly, long before the inspection takes place.
We took a view that from the beginning it should be reasonably brief. We were aiming at 25 pages max, and we wanted it to be very bulleted. We wanted it to be very numerical wherever it could be, if we had any assertions that we could give the evidence for. And I think we'd almost got there. And when the phone call came, the inspector was kind enough to allow me an hour to just read it through before they finally took it away. So I read through SF and I actually made some changes following the phone call. And she took it from me at 7 o'clock in the evening, which is very good. It gave us the chance just to make sure it's absolutely current, although we'd reviewed it the term before, so it was pretty up to date.
And what particular tip, recommendation would you say to other head teachers in relation to preparing a self-evaluation form?
I think make it positive. You need to talk about all the issues that there are in the school, and you need to bring out what you're doing about those. But what we did, and we tried really hard to do this and get it right, was the beginning of each section we tried to make sure it started with positive note, positive few bullets, and each section wrapped up with something positive. So there was a sense of sort of dynamic, active, positive school rather than just a litany of the complexities and the challenges. They were there, but topped and tailed with some positive work that was going on and positive outcomes.
The other information the inspector will have is your data. When the inspectorate comes to your school, they will expect you to provide an analysis of the information they have. So my next top tip is that you know your data.
I think it's being able to point to all of the data that you have in school available to you. So it's using all of that national data, but also anything else that you bring into the school to provide you with that kind of knowledge to move pupils on. So, for example, in our school, we use Midias and Yellis. We use extensively Fisher Family Trust information. And it's a case of getting across the best possible story, I think, to the lead inspector to ensure that they know what you're doing to move the pupils on, given the contextual circumstances of the school and where the pupils are coming from.
My next tip is about preparation of the school. As an inspector, it is clear very early on if everybody involved with the school has been properly briefed. So make sure you prepare your staff, your pupils, your governors and your parents.
I had an assembly as soon as we'd heard about the inspection. It was coming so quickly. We had an assembly the following day with the whole school. And I spent the assembly going through the students' achievements over the last few years. and making sure that they remembered all the good things that they'd done. Perhaps what happened was I prepared the pupils, the students, and they then went ahead and prepared the parents. We were saying the same to staff as to the pupils. You know, we're a good school, in our opinion. Let's just show that.
Every morning we have briefings. That didn't change. Everything stayed the same. Our head teacher made certain that he spoke to us to try to relax us. He would say, do the things that you do well and that you do in every lesson. That's what the inspectors want to see, what you do in every lesson.
The year before we thought we were going to be inspected, we thought to brush everybody up. We invited the person who'd led the inspection, the previous one, which was 3 years before, to come and spend 2 days in the school and talk to the staff, because the inspection process was changing. He also did a session with the governors, briefing them about what the new regulations were and what was going to be expected of them, and he came and did some lesson observations as well. So we had a 2-day kind of like mini inspection, but was meant to inform everybody as well.
For an Ofsted inspection, leadership and management is a key area for the inspectorate. So my top tip is that you demonstrate leadership at all levels, including the governors.
What we were able to do was to point to the middle leaders in particular and demonstrate the support that they had to carry out their work, and the professional development programme that we put into place to make sure that they had the skills to be able to carry out that work. Even when you had some quite inexperienced people that had taken up leadership roles. And I think the inspectors were able to see then that even if that was the case, we were able to support them, give them the professional development that they needed to carry out the role effectively.
I think the key issues to put across to an inspector is to make sure that you explain to the inspector what you believe are the key issues for the school going forward, what are the key initiatives that are in hand in order to achieve those. So if it's in terms of attainment, if it's in terms of teaching and learning, if it happens to be something to do with administration, it could be for behaviour, so that you can actually identify to the inspector, these are the issues that we are tackling, and this is the programme we have in place. We understand what that programme is, we've had a hand in preparing it, and we are monitoring it effectively.
Apart from leadership and management, the inspectorate is looking to judge the quality of teaching and learning in your school. My tip is to let your teachers and classrooms speak.
Certainly one of the earliest feedbacks we gave to staff is that learning is all. The teaching is fine, but learning is all. So you need to focus on what the actual outcomes of the lesson are. You need to focus on what the progress students are making during the lesson is. You need to be clear about that, rather than holding forth for some period of time at the start of the lesson. Actually demonstrate the learning that's taken place in the lesson every time. Have your clear objectives and then show them met with the outcome at the end.
My next tip is about your pupils. As an inspector, I know the value of the pupils' voices in making a judgment about the school as a safe and happy environment. Make sure the children are heard during an inspection. Your pupils are your best ambassadors. Hilda, in your inspection, what was your experience of how the inspectors came to their judgments about the personal development of students and how well they were cared for, supported and guided within your school?
I think they certainly knew what they wanted to do in terms of students by first of all requesting to talk to different types of students. So they'd set that up, and quite clearly they were going to ask them about the areas around the Every Child Matters agenda. We also very purposely made sure that in the groups of pupils we were asked to put forward, we put forward students who were active in areas. So they'd either been on Healthy Schools Working Party, they were trained as mentors, they were trained as anti-bullying mentors or something like that, or they were buddy counsellors, people like that.
The inspectors came in to my music class while I was playing the keyboard, and they basically asked me what lessons I enjoyed in school, how music had developed in school for the last 2 years. And my impression of that was that school has actually done quite well in music, getting more facilities into the school, and music has developed in my eyes.
I said that the school's really fun and it's not just boring, and teachers try to make it fun. And like the lessons, they give you ideas of how to help you in life stages and everything.
So that's all about how to make sure your inspection goes well. But it's a rare inspection in my experience when there isn't a small wobble or something doesn't go quite as you'd planned. My advice is that you lead the difficult moments confidently.
We've obviously had a number of inspections when we were coming out of special measures, and I think what the inspectors are looking to do is to ensure that whatever happens, you do have in place the right procedures to deal with it. And we've had floods during inspection, we've had uncooperative parents. But during the most recent Ofsted inspection, one of the areas that he picked us up on and we had to deal with very quickly was our safeguarding issues, where our CRB checks weren't all on one document, and it was brought very clearly home to me that this could be a reason for closing the school if we didn't have that corrected. So on the first evening we did have to stay in late to make sure that we got all of that onto one document, and my admin staff were very good with that.
As the inspection progresses, the inspectorate will come to key conclusions about what the school should do to improve further. My tip is that you shape the emerging inspection findings with the inspector.
They were very open with us as they were developing their report, and in fact I was invited in to their meeting in the middle of the inspection to hear what they were looking to say. And so from an early stage I had a good idea of where I felt very comfortable and where I felt that actually perhaps it could be adjusted a bit, or where they weren't quite right. And they were able to talk to me about that, and they did listen to what I was saying.
The areas for improvement, it should be no surprise. They're there in the CEF. You've already put them in there. You've already put it into your school development plan. I was very keen for the inspector to actually put it into the report, some of the things that we were saying there, because I think that then gives the head teacher that much more authority to say, look, this is the way forward and this is what we need to do in the future. So very keen to work with the inspector to make sure that the final report was also a reflection of the CEF and the school improvement plan.
My final tip is about the draft report you will receive shortly after the Ofsted inspection. This is an opportunity for you not to change the grading, but to make sure that the wording of the text is one you are happy with. So finally, do make sure that you spend time on the draft report.
I went through the report word by word and with my senior team, and we came together to decide where there were areas that we felt perhaps weren't a true reflection of what had been fed back to us during the inspection itself. So there were 2 or 3 places in the report where we felt that perhaps what had been fed back to us was of a higher calibre than actually appeared in the report. So where the inspectors had been talking about some outstanding work, it came across as not quite outstanding in the report itself. So we were tried to get those indications corrected in the final report. What I would want from the inspection there is to illustrate the very best of what we're doing during that time, so that they can write a report that does help the school to move on.
So those are my top tips on how to secure a successful inspection. If you've led it well, you will receive a report with which you, your staff and students and governors can be happy. Your inspector can leave feeling it's been a job well done.